Well, good morning, everybody. And as we get started off today, I want to look at some satellite imagery from yesterday because the storms that we kind of saw unzip along this front right in through here, producing some locally heavy rain and some damaging winds, are the reason why my report's quite brief this morning. I was in Kearney, Nebraska for a meeting yesterday and then flew to Dallas last night where my flight got canceled back home to St. Louis. So I'm stuck in Dallas. When I got in, I stood in a line. I like to show you my line. There it is. For 2.5 hours, I got out of the airport finally around 1 a.m. and it was still 97 degrees in town last night down here in Dallas. So the heat and drought issues in Texas, for those of you that are not there, are real beyond anything that I think I've ever experienced. But those storms that kind of pulled right in through this part of Illinois, into Missouri, Indiana, continued in the overnight hours. And then here they are this morning. And I'm hoping I'll be able to catch this morning flight to get back, although I got to go to D.C. first. So it's a bit of a crazy travel day, and I apologize for that. This forecast, though, everything I'm about to share with you is critical for major parts of the country. So I hope you're able to watch this video today. What makes it so important is we have to look at where we recently saw some precipitation and where we haven't. So we saw the storms come through parts of Michigan, Indiana, Illinois, back into Missouri, and this is again an area that's seen a tremendous amount of flooding as of late. Southwest monsoon continued to do its thing, and isolated convection throughout parts of the southeast down to the lower Mississippi River Valley. I'm showing you the last 24 hours here because our AHPS maps, they're always a day old. That's just a quality control check that NOAA does. This is the most important part of today, all right? We have this area that's right in through here and pockets throughout the southern plains, pockets in the southeast, and then parts of New England coming out of the eastern Corn Belt that have missed out substantially on rainfall. Now, we don't expect it in California. We don't expect it in the Northwest this time of year. It's the middle of the hot, dry summer time period, even though some isolated convective events have made it there. So what we need to see is with this upcoming pattern, are we going to be bringing moisture to places that need it? Because a lot of places cannot endure a dry spell given the soil moisture issues that we've got going on. So latest update here on 16-inch soil moisture values are shown. And again, you can identify those same areas we just highlighted as places that desperately need the rainfall. So here's the main story, okay? Right now, today, in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, about a mile above our heads, we're watching a low-pressure cell develop right into this area. It's going to deliver some very heavy rain north of it, but it's where this low-pressure system goes. It's going to wrap itself up into kind of the Hudson Bay area, and it's going to leave this weak frontal boundary that's going to stretch right in through here. Now, our questions have to be, how far to the north does the moisture make it, and how far to the south does the front cut through, and how long does it linger? And then on top of that, what are going to be the additional triggers in the atmosphere to release more basically rising motion to give us better storm chances? I'm going to tell you that in just a second, but I want to make a point here. We are seeing more risk going into the middle of the month of August for hotter and drier conditions in the midsection of the country. And it's all because of this triple ridge setup. There's one, here's the other, and we're going to see the other one develop here in the midsection of the United States in just a few moments. But I'll also point out that there's nothing coming out of the tropics. The trades are very strong right now. A lot of dust in this and nothing really brewing. So there's no waves we're watching for a big tropical system to come through and disrupt all of this. Okay, so I'm going to step you up and show you what I'm going to be watching carefully. This is the 500 millibar flow, the mid-level flow. And so now you can see where that ridge is currently sitting right in through here. You're going to see that storm track following right up here around this larger Canadian low. Now what I'm concerned about, and these are very subtle features, is this shortwave trough right here. And there's actually another little shortwave trough right down in this area. They're going to come up and get pulled into this flow. And where they interact with the frontal boundary over parts of the Midwest will be critical for Midwestern rains. So this is the kind of delicate pattern we have in the middle of summer. And I'm going to explain to you why I think this is so important. I'm going to show you 3 different forecasts for rainfall. This is the latest update from the WPC. So this is where National Weather Service weather forecasters come in and modify the model forecast to give you their best estimate. And as we've been discussing, it was going to be better rains here in the Ohio River Valley. We're going to have flow coming off those trade winds. They're going to come into parts of the southern, really the south. We were worried that the subtropical ridge was going to make it drier from Georgia to South Carolina, North Carolina. And then the hope is that with these fronts kind of pulling through parts of New England, we're going to see better rains there. Coming out of the desert southwest, we have been expecting those storms to make it pretty far to the north. And it's important that they do that, given that yesterday, let me just take you back and show you this, we do see quite a bit of wildfire smoke from wildfires coming out of the Pacific Northwest, where we once again today have red flag warnings in this particular area. So these things coming together, just notice how the precipitation pattern looks for that dry section right in through here we talked about, plus in the southern plains. So this is the forecast from the National Weather Service. Now what we're about to do is a quick model comparison. We're going to compare the GFS to the European model. I'm going to give you their skill scores. This is how well they've been matching the upper level height pattern in terms of their forecasting skill. So the blue line is the ECMWF performance, the red is the GFS. Now as of late, we've seen the GFS really fall off here compared to what the European model has done. And this is going to bring in a lot of questions, because you could make an argument as of late that the GFS has performed a little better on the rains, but it's what's going to happen going forward that I'm most concerned about. I want you to know that they've separated quite a bit, with the European being the top performer. So the GFS model shows this. And what's most concerning about the GFS model is how much right here through parts of the western Corn Belt it's really drawn back on the rainfall. Very consistent over parts of the eastern Corn Belt into the southeast. In fact, it's wettest. It's the wetter model in the southeast here. But let me show you this compared to the European. So this is the higher resolution European. All right. So GFS versus the European. Now when we combine them, we can actually see, let's try this one. There we go. We can actually see the differences. So whenever you look at this graphic, these colors represent where the European is wetter, these represent where the GFS is wetter. And overall, by far, the GFS is a drier model when you look at the next 7 days of total accumulated precipitation. So we have to ask a couple questions, and the first one is, how far does that front sag? So if you watch, this is the low-level winds today, going through tonight into tomorrow. You see that low curling up here by Hudson Bay? We see that by Saturday afternoon and evening, the front will be stretched right in through here. If you have these winds on the northern side here, these of course will be drier winds on the northern side coming in around high pressure. So it seems as though the front sags right in through this area by Sunday and then presses east with time. So I'm concerned about how quickly the front makes it through the Dakotas and into Nebraska. I was just in Nebraska. I know the struggles we're having in Nebraska for dryness. And then we have to ask, how far does that moisture make it? So this is a dew point temperature map. And what we're watching here is how the Gulf moisture, bringing in these dew points that could get up above 70, stretch into this area. We need to pull that moisture back farther to the west in order to return more moisture to the plains and to the western Corn Belt out of this. So when we look at an individual model run, this is what we get. So here's that frontal boundary last night. We see that it slides east with time, but just kind of stalls out over the Ohio River Valley into parts of New England by the time we get to Friday evening. Here's a low we're concerned about, and you can see this front right in through here. Now remember, at this time, there's a shortwave that came out of British Columbia that's about here now, and there was also that shortwave in Southern California that's pulling into this as well. So it's kind of wrapping its way up in this direction. So as we go into Saturday morning, Saturday midday, and Saturday evening, so let's pause it right there. You can see the high pressure cell here, the front just sliding through Lake Superior right down through the corner of Iowa, almost right over top of Sioux Falls, stretching back to Nebraska. The model trend has been, so see how it all kind of comes together here by Saturday night into Sunday morning. The model trend has been wetter north with that second wave coming through, and more scattered across parts of like Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa, with this line coming through right there. So it's really going to be next Monday, Tuesday, looking at how much rain fell to tell us how we're going to be able to handle the hotter, drier conditions that are going to follow this. Because a large high pressure cell moves in, and that front continues to sag through the eastern Corn Belt down into parts of the Mid-South, possibly bringing more rain here early next week to parts of Texas and Oklahoma, back into Arkansas, places that need it. And then that front finally pushes over here to the Carolinas by next Wednesday. So this is what we're watching, and we're trying to understand. And again, I'm just going to show you the differences in the models are quite important to note. So that would be the differences in the models. Here is the European, and here is the GFS. And you can have access to all of these on the website that I link in the report. Okay, from here, this is the probability of getting an inch of rain over the next 10 days. So very high throughout the Ohio River Valley, all along the Gulf Coast, pockets throughout the southwest. But our concern is right in through here where the probability of getting less than a half inch. In fact, let's go back and flip that back to the 0Z model real quick. There we go. That's the 10-day right there. 10-day probability of getting less than a half inch of rainfall. So we're getting very concerned about some of the dry places right into this area. We do have today heat advisories that stretch through the southern plains, pockets of the western plains and northern plains here, and then red flag warnings. While we have flood watches over parts of California and Nevada, and also where the rain is still kind of pushing through this section today. There's heat advisories and excessive heat warnings in the north. Take a look at what these temperatures are doing. So very hot in New England in the northeast, very hot in the northern plains, but a pretty volatile pattern. So we go back over to hundreds right here in the western Corn Belt on Friday, but that front that's coming through parts of the northern plains by Saturday could knock temperatures off 30 degrees over what they are today. Just incredible to see that. So that front progresses on Sunday when the northwest starts to heat back up early next week. And here we are getting out to Tuesday and Wednesday, and the next round of heat comes back in the midsection of the country. When we look at that 5-day sliding window of temperatures, let's take this on out here to day 5 through 10, which kind of parks us right in the middle of the month. And you can see the effect of that ridge reopening back in this area and its effect on the temperatures here in the plains through the Canadian prairie. And as we display this on through the middle of the month, the big difference in the models as of the latest runs are to open the ridge back up in the midsection of the country, very characteristic of La Nina, which delivers quite a bit of warm, hot conditions, and we're worried that it's going to be drier there. Because this is the new 10-day forecast for mid-August, and instead of what we saw in recent runs where this ridge was backing up and the flow was coming over the top of it like this, the ridge is now firmly planted over parts of Texas, and that's what makes the forecast going into week 2 drier. So this was a pretty long morning minute today, and I apologize for my travel headaches, but we'll get back on a regular cadence tomorrow morning and get you the latest information. So I appreciate your attention, and we'll talk to you then. Thanks.